Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are here for a bit of a short series. We are around the point of arbitration, and now I want to start taking a look at the teams that could disappoint, the teams that could surprise, the teams that could turn around, the teams that could start a free fall, the teams that could be the best, the teams that could be the worst. I'm not going to be hitting on all of these, nor am I projecting all of these teams to be disappointments. I'm saying that I think that they have the biggest possibilities to be disappointments next year. And even for the ones that I do end up projecting when I go through every team's schedule, which won't be happening until around February, I don't expect to be right about really any of them. Last year I projected that the Angels would be a disappointing team. That was good. I also projected that the Dodgers would be a disappointing team. That was bad. But then again, they were close to my record prediction for them at the start of the season. But the premise of my prediction was bad. So I'm not expecting what I do project to be true. I'm just saying that these teams are the ones that I think have the biggest chance to be a disappointment next year. So how about we just get into it? I didn't want to put this team on the list, but it seems like they're going to be a team that could disappoint next year, and honestly I think that they would probably disappoint next year. The main reason is because they put so much emphasis on their hitting and not much else. Yes, the fielding wasn't bad last year, and they do have gloves, but they don't really upgrade their pitching as much as they should. They have a mediocre rotation, and they don't have their old pitching coach. Without their old pitching coach, I think that it's a mediocre rotation. Even if they add Mad Bum, I'd still say that it's only barely better than the 2017 Marlins rotation, or actually no, 2016 Marlins rotation. I'd probably take it either way and it wouldn't be much of a question for me, but it's sort of along those lines without Derek Johnson, because he's one of the best pitching coaches in the game, and he's headed over to a division rival, so that's also not good. So I think that their rotation isn't going to be as good. Also, the NL Central is looking much stronger with the Cardinals and the Reds both making fast improvements. The Cubs are still there, and the Pirates can give them fits. They even had a 5-game winning streak at one point. So the Pirates could give them fits. The NL Central is tough. I do think that the AL West teams will give them trouble. So I think that they are going to be a team that can disappoint next year. They have a chance to be a disappointment. Even with the acquisition of Mad Bum, it could be one that isn't enough. This is kind of a go-to pick, I think, for me, just because of how they've underachieved the past couple of years. I'm not too fond of their new coaching staff additions. Then again, I don't know too much about them, but not too fond of them either, from what it seems like. And this is a very weird statement that I'm about to say, but their pitching core is pretty sketchy. They have Brandon Morrow out with an injury, and their rotation is pretty sketchy. It's funny because a couple of years ago, maybe 2015, 2016, this would have been considered one of, if not the best rotations in all of baseball. I mean, if they had these players from a couple of years ago, it would be one of the more dominant rotations in all of baseball. But now, it's looking a bit more sketchy. Some of the pitchers are getting older, some are just not performing as good, and in general, the pitching core isn't looking like something that you want to rely upon. The hitting core is something that they're probably going to have to rely upon, and it has an underachieving track record from last year, and even a bit from 2017, but getting rid of Chili Davis should help with that, so we'll see on that front. And also, Joe Madden, it could be the sort of case where the game starts to pass him by. So, this is a team that could be a disappointment. I'd probably still pick them to win the wild card. We'll see what else happens in the offseason, because there are still a few things that need to happen, and if they sign Bryce Harper, then it'll probably nullify my suspicions. But even then, I mean, they're going to have to clear up some money for that too, if I'm pretty sure. But in general, the Cubs look like a team that won't be as good. They look like a team that is very promising for the future. They've added to their roster right for the most part, but I'm not fond of their new pitching coach. They also lost Anibal Sanchez, who was really good for them last year. They still have some good pitchers in that rotation, but I don't really expect it to do too much for them. The NL East also got stronger with the Mets and the Nats and the Phillies. Those are three teams that can give them legitimate problems. I do face the AL Central for interleague play, so that should be a bonus, but facing the NL East is going to be tough. I think that this could be a year where they're like the 2016 Astros. That's just what I think could be a possibility, where they go through a bit of a struggle and they go into the offseason and make additions to their pitching staff, needed acquisitions to their pitching staff, and then next year they probably win the World Series. That's just what I see. I thought that the Twins would be something like the 2016 Astros last year, and look at how that turned out. They were even worse. But I think that the Braves could be a little bit more similar because I think that their pieces are more promising than those Twins pieces. So it could very well be the case for the Braves not being as good this year and missing out on the playoffs. I save this team for last because this team annoys me more than any other team in Major League Baseball and more than any other team that is one of my favorite teams. Last year it was the Rockies that fit this category. This year it's this team that fits this category because the Rockies made the playoffs and they still look very promising. They proved me wrong last year. This team, they proved me right a little bit more than proving me right. David Force said that he expected this team to make the playoffs, and they did. I believed him when he said that. I believed him before he said that. I'm just being completely honest. I am not buying this. I'm not buying this team being as good next year. Situational hitting is a foreign concept. Darren Bush is not qualified to be a hitting coach, yet they still think that he's a viable option because they won 97 games and nothing needs to be changed. They also believe that nothing needs to be added to that rotation and that it's going to be just fine with more ragtag rotational pieces. They're doing the same thing that they're doing in 2013. The difference is that they don't have as good of a rotation as they did in 2013. I mean, it's more sustainable, but they're not building around it properly. And Darren Bush is a worse hitting coach than Chili Davis, because at least Chili Davis, he had some upside as a hitting coach. Darren Bush was a bullpen coach before he became a hitting coach. So it doesn't make sense. Chris Davis went down with injury during this year, and the offense all but dried up. But of course, since they won 97 games, nothing needs to be changed. The hitting game plan had glaring weaknesses in the wildcard game, but they won 97 games, so nothing needs to be changed. It just doesn't make sense. This organization is content with making a playoff push every now and then when they should be competing for World Series titles. I think it's going to be a pretty bad year, because the Angels look like a team that's going to be better this year. I know that Trevor Cahill only had like 2 good months, and outside of O.Co, he was not good. And another thing is that they signed Matt Harvey, so they added some sketchy starting pitching acquisitions, but they also got a new pitching coach that I think is going to do well for them. I think their new pitching coach will make that starting rotation do better than it did last year. If they add another bullpen arm, they will be even better. They also have another hitter. So the Angels are a team that I think could be better. The Rangers could be a team that competes with them because I think that they're a team that's probably going to be better this year as well. And another thing is that the Astros, well, they're the Astros. They're going to be up there just because of their hitting core and because their rotation, even though it's a bit sketchy on the back end, they still have 2 really good starters in Garrett Cole and Justin Verlander. So the Astros are going to be likely at the top once again. And there are teams that could just be better than them, alright? I'm sorry, they just look like they're going to be better. Hate to say it because I'd love to laugh at the Angels once again, but it just looks like this team is going to be a huge disappointment, and they're going to take a huge step back, and they're going to be a team that I am continuing to not buy in on ever being World Series contenders until they prove that they are willing to do the right things to compete for World Series titles, because they're doing the right things to compete for playoff spots, but not for competing for World Series titles. I will say that I liked the Jurickson Profar and Joakim Soria additions, but this is like 2013, except with a worse rotation. So, let me know what you guys think about teams that could disappoint next year. These are the 4 teams that I think have a possibility to be disappointments. I'm probably not going to be right about any of these. These are just sort of suspicions, and I think potential is the key word for teams that can disappoint next year. So if you guys have any teams, let me know down in the comment section. Otherwise, that'll do it. I talk about baseball all the time on this channel. I'm going to try and upload baseball videos more often. We'll see where that'll go. But overall, that'll do it for this video. I'll have the Paul Goldschmidt trade reaction up here somewhere, and I don't know what this video will be. And so with nothing to lose, I am opening myself up for slander in a couple of years.